east gate, the mercy gate, the golden gate as it's known, the original being just off to the left a few feet. This is where Jesus is coming.
Nearly 2,000 years ago, Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, fulfilling the words of the prophets. The crowds shouted, "Hosanna!" as he entered through the eastern gate, the very gate Ezekiel declared would one day be sealed, for the Lord himself had passed through it. Since then, the gate has remained closed, bricked up for centuries, a silent witness to prophecy. But now, something strange is stirring. Reports claim the sealed stones have shifted. A gate that has stood immovable for nearly 500 years appears unsettled, and the timing could not be more striking. These days coincide with the 10 days of awe, the most solemn period in the Jewish calendar, the beginning with Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, and culminating in Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. For generations, Yom Kippur has been understood as a rehearsal for the final judgment, a day when God's people stand vulnerable before Him. History itself bears witness. The Yom Kippur War of 1973 erupted on this very holy day, shaking Israel to its core. And now, eyes turn again toward the calendar. For October 1st, 2025, Yom Kippur carries prophetic weight for many who watch and pray. Is this the slow erosion of time, or the first tremors of prophecy awakening? Today, we turn our eyes to Jerusalem, to the sealed eastern gate, and ask, has biblical prophecy just been fulfilled? Before we continue, make sure to like this video so more people can discover these powerful stories of prophecy and history. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our latest deep dives into the mysteries and beyond. For centuries, the eastern gate of Jerusalem has stood like a sealed threshold between heaven and earth. Its stones, weathered by time yet untouched by human hands, have guarded a silence so profound it feels sacred. No footsteps echo through its arch. No procession passes beneath its gaze. It is as if the gate itself is holding its breath, waiting. But now, something has changed. Whispers drift through the ancient city, like wind through olive branches. The gate, long sealed by decree and prophecy, appears disturbed. Stones, once perfectly aligned, now seem subtly shifted. Cracks have widened. The symmetry that held for generations has faltered. And with this shift comes a question that trembles through the hearts of believers. Is this erosion or intervention? Some say it is nothing more than the slow decay of limestone, the inevitable settling of ancient foundations. But others see a divine fingerprint, a subtle sign that the timeline of prophecy is stirring once more. Could this be the beginning of something foretold? A gate long closed, preparing to open? The mystery deepens, and the world watches. Some call it erosion, others call it a sign, a divine nudge, a reminder that prophecy is alive. To understand the significance, we must start with Scripture. In Ezekiel 44:1-2, the prophet writes, "Then he brought me back to the outer gate of the sanctuary, which faces east, and it was shut. And the Lord said to me, This gate shall remain shut. It shall not be opened, and no one shall enter by it. For the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it. Therefore, it shall remain shut." And letztet is hef. For Christians, this passage points to Jesus Christ, who entered Jerusalem through this very gate on Palm Sunday, riding on a donkey, as the crowds shouted, "Hosanna!" To believers, this was the fulfillment of Ezekiel's vision. The Lord himself had entered, and the gate was sealed as a testimony to that moment. But for Jews, the prophecy remains unfulfilled. The Messiah has not yet come. The sealed gate is a promise waiting to be realized. When the Anointed One arrives, he will come from the Mount of Olives, cross the Kidron Valley, and enter through the eastern gate to establish God's kingdom on earth. This expectation is echoed in Zechariah 14:4. On that day, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives that lies before Jerusalem to the east. From there, the Messiah would enter the city, and the eastern gate stands directly in his path. Psalm 24 adds poetic weight. Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Muslim tradition also attaches significance to this gate. In Islamic eschatology, the Day of Judgment is tied to Jerusalem. Some traditions hold that the resurrection will begin in this very place, and that the righteous will be gathered here. Thus, the Eastern Gate is not just a Jewish or Christian symbol, it is a point of convergence, a place where three great faiths meet,
Understand prophetic
each with its own vision of what the gate
the
represents,
Golden Gate and Mount of
each with
Olives
its own
align
expectation
with
of what
mirror-like
will one
precision.
day happen there.
Standing
And now,
at
in
the
our own
gate,
time,
you have
the
an
gate has
unobstructed
shifted.
view of the mountain.
Eyewitnesses speak of subtle
Standing-
but undeniable changes. Tourists, pilgrims, and even local guides have noticed the misalignment. Photographs taken decades apart show differences that cannot be ignored. Some describe the moment as holy, a stirring in their spirit they could not explain. Skeptics argue that the gate's shifting is nothing more than geology and time. They point to the earthquakes that have rattled Jerusalem, including tremors in recent decades. They note that limestone, the stone used in much of the city's construction, is porous and prone to erosion. Archaeologists remind us that ancient structures often shift, crack, and settle. To them, the Eastern Gate is no different. But believers counter with a question. Why this gate? Why now? Of all the walls and stones in Jerusalem, why is it the Eastern Gate, the very gate tied to prophecy that shows signs of movement? If the shifting of this gate stirs something in your spirit, let your like be a quiet amen that carries it further. Coincidence or divine timing? The question hangs in the air like incense in a temple, fragrant, elusive, impossible to ignore. And the debate grows sharper when placed against the backdrop of our times. We live in an age of trembling foundations. Wars erupt with little warning. Rumors of conflict spread faster than fire. Nations teeter on the edge of collapse. Economies falter. Trust erodes. The earth groans beneath our feet, with floods, fires, earthquakes, and storms that seem to defy prediction. In this atmosphere of global unrest, the shifting of the Eastern Gate feels less like an isolated anomaly and more like a whisper woven into a larger tapestry. For many, it is not just a crack in stone, it is a crack in the veil between the natural and the divine, a subtle tremor in the timeline of prophecy. A signal that history is not drifting aimlessly, but accelerating toward a climax foretold long ago. They see the gate's movement as one more thread in the unfolding narrative of redemption, a reminder that the ancient words of Scripture are not frozen in time, but alive, pulsing beneath the surface of our reality, waiting to be fulfilled. But not everyone agrees. Others caution against sensationalism. They warn that chasing after every sign can lead to spiritual fatigue, disappointment, and even deception. They point to past generations who declared the end was near, only to be proven wrong again and again. They remind us that not every earthquake is a trumpet blast, and not every crack in stone is a divine message. And yet, the Eastern Gate remains silent, sealed, shifting, a paradox that refuses to be ignored. It does not speak, yet it stirs conversation. It does not move, yet it unsettles hearts. It is a gate that has stood for centuries, and now it seems to be whispering. Among theologians, the interpretations vary like colors in a stained glass window. Some Christian scholars insist that the prophecy of Ezekiel was fulfilled in Jesus' first coming. That was when he entered Jerusalem on a donkey, passing through the Eastern Gate. The words of the prophet were sealed, literally and spiritually. To them, the gate is a monument to that fulfillment, a sacred reminder of a moment when heaven touched earth. The shifting stones, they say, are interesting, but not prophetic. Others argue that prophecy often unfolds in layers, like waves crashing on a shore, each one echoing the last but reaching further. Just as the prophets spoke words that had immediate meaning for their time, and yet pointed to a greater future, so too, the Eastern Gate may carry both past and future significance. It may have been sealed once in honor of the Messiah's arrival, and may yet open again when he returns. Jewish scholars, meanwhile, see the shifting as a reminder of the Messiah yet to come. For them, the gate is not a relic of the past, but a doorway to the future, a portal through which redemption will one day enter. The movement of the stones is not erosion, it is anticipation, and in the Muslim tradition, the gate remains tied to the day of judgment. Some believe that the resurrection will begin in this very place, that the righteous will be gathered here, that the sealed gate will open not by human hands, but by divine decree. 3 faiths, 1 gate, 1,000 interpretations. But while scholars debate and skeptics dismiss, something else is happening. Quietly, globally, spiritually. Across the world, a quiet awakening is taking place. People are beginning to watch, Osco, not casually, but with urgency. They study ancient prophecies, they track signs in the heavens and tremors in the earth. These are the watchers on the wall, men and women stirred by something they cannot fully explain, yet cannot ignore. Scripture speaks of watchmen, those who stand guard, who sound the alarm, who see what others do not. In Isaiah 62:6, the Lord declares, "I have posted watchmen on your walls, Jerusalem. They will never be silent day or night." These sentinels are not merely observers. They are messengers, guardians, heralds of what is to come. And in the unseen realm, perhaps others are awakening too. Some believe that angels, a celestial watchman, are being stirred by the shifting of the times. As prophecy begins to tremble toward fulfillment, the heavenly host is rising, not with trumpets yet, but with attention, with readiness, with wings poised. Could it be that the shifting of the Eastern Gate is not only a sign to humanity, but a signal to the heavens? That the gate, long sealed, is now stirring the watchers above, those who have waited since the beginning for the moment when history and eternity collide? The veil between worlds feels thinner. Dreams grow more vivid. Discernment sharpens. The spiritual atmosphere is charged, and those who are sensitive to it, prophets, intercessors, seekers, feel it in their bones. The watchmen are rising. Some walk among us. Others fly above us. But all are watching the same gate. And perhaps that gate is more than stone and mortar. Perhaps it is a threshold, not just into Jerusalem, but into a moment foretold, a convergence of realms. As the watchers rise, both earthly and angelic, the air around the Eastern Gate thickens with anticipation. It is as if time itself is leaning forward, listening. The silence of centuries begins to hum with unseen movement. And somewhere beyond the veil, a trumpet remains quiet, but not forgotten. The gate is stirring, the watchers are awake, and the story is not yet finished. Now, the question is not only about stones and mortar, it is about the true meaning behind these signs. What do we see when we look at the Eastern Gate? Do we see erosion, or do we see prophecy? Do we see coincidence, or do we see the hand of God? The answer may not lie in the stones themselves, but in the eyes that behold them. For the Eastern Gate is more than architecture, it is a mirror, and what it reflects depends on the heart of the one who watches. To the skeptic, it is limestone and mortar, weathered by centuries of wind and rain. A sealed archway, bricked up by decree, surrounded by silence and superstition. They see cracks and misalignment and call it geology. They see shifting stones and call it time. They see nothing more than the slow decay of an ancient wall. But to the believer, it is something else entirely. It is a threshold between worlds. A doorway not just into Jerusalem, but into eternity. A place where prophecy once walked and may walk again. They see the same cracks, the same stones, the same silence, but they hear something different. A whisper, a stirring, a call. Because prophecy is not merely about predicting the future. It is about awakening the soul. It is about calling us to readiness, to faith, to reflection. It is the divine language that speaks not only to nations, but to individuals. It does not shout, it stirs. It does not demand, it invites. And the Eastern Gate stands as a paradox. It is sealed, yet it speaks. It is silent, yet it stirs faith. It is immovable, yet it has shifted. In that paradox lies the mystery of prophecy itself. A mystery that continues to draw us deeper, to search, to question, and to hope. It is the tension between what is and what could be, between what was foretold and what is unfolding, between the seen and the unseen. Jesus said, "When you see these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." Luke 21-28. These words were not spoken to scholars or theologians alone. They spoke to ordinary people, fishermen, farmers, seekers, people who lived in uncertain times, people who watched the world shift around them, people who needed hope. And today, those words echo again. Perhaps the miracle is not in the stones themselves, but in the way they awaken us to eternity. Perhaps the true shifting is not in the gate, but in the human heart. Because when prophecy stirs, it does not only move mountains, it moves souls. The Eastern Gate stands as a paradox, closed, yet open to meaning. Silent, yet speaking volumes. Waiting, yet reminding us that time is moving forward. It has waited through empires, through wars, through generations. It has watched pilgrims weep and tourists gaze. It has heard prayers whispered and debates shouted. And through it all, it has remained sealed until now. Now, the stones shift, the symmetry falters, the silence hums, and the watchers awaken. Some say it is erosion. Others say it is a sign. But perhaps it is both. Perhaps the physical and the spiritual are not as separate as we imagine. Perhaps the gate is not just responding to time, but to timing. And so we are left with a choice: to dismiss the whispers as a coincidence, or to see them as a call to readiness, to shrug and walk away, or to stand and lift our heads, to say, "It's just a gate," or to ask, "What is it trying to tell me?" Because prophecy does not force belief, it invites it. It does not demand attention, it earns it. And when it stirs, it does so gently, like wind through olive branches, like light through stained glass, like a voice calling your name in the quiet. The gate waits, the city waits, the world waits, but prophecy does not wait forever. It moves according to divine rhythm. It unfolds according to sacred timing. And when the moment comes, it will not ask permission. It will arrive. When it does, will we be ready? Will we have eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to respond? Because the gate is not the only thing sealed. Sometimes, so are our hearts, bricked up by doubt, surrounded by cemeteries of disappointment, guarded by the fear that prophecy is too big, too strange, too distant. But when the gate stirs, something in us stirs too. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the gate was never meant to open with fanfare, but with a whisper. Maybe the miracle is not in the earthquake, but in the quiet shift. Maybe the sign is not for the world at large, but for the one watching in silence, wondering if God still speaks. He does speak, and sometimes he speaks through stone, not with thunder or spectacle, but with subtle shifts. A whisper etched into limestone, a tremor that bypasses the ears and goes straight to the soul. The Eastern Gate, long sealed and silent, now stirs, and in its stirring, something ancient awakens. So we must look again, not with the eyes dulled by skepticism, but with eyes rekindled by wonder, not with hearts hardened by fear, but with hearts softened by faith. This is not a moment for analysis. It is a moment for awakening, because the Eastern Gate has shifted, and maybe it's time we did too. Perhaps it's time to unseal the places within us that have been closed for too long. The places where hope once lived freely, where prayer once burned brightly, where faith once walked boldly before the noise of the world drowned it out. These places are not lost, only waiting to be reopened. It's time to let the light in again, to believe that prophecy is not confined to ancient scrolls, but alive in the present. To recognize that signs are not just symbols, but invitations, divine nudges that call us to attention. To understand that the gate is not merely a monument of stone, but a message carved into history, because the Eastern Gate is not just about Jerusalem. It's about us. It's about how we respond to mystery, how we interpret silence, how we prepare for what's coming. And whether we believe it or not, something is coming. The gate has shifted. The watchers are awake. The veil between worlds is thinning, and the story, the one written in stone and spirit, is far from over. So we return to the question, not with fear, but with reverence. What do we see when we look at the Eastern Gate? A miracle? A mystery? A message? Perhaps all three. But the greater question is not what we see, it's whether we will respond. Because the gate has shifted. And now, it's our turn. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, the gates of prophecy are still open and waiting for you to explore. So please join us. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.